Hi guys, good afternoon. I am Anish Gupta, the founder of National Law Training Institute and currently a fourth year student at the National Law School Bangalore. So today we have a very special guest among us. We have Tanvi Kadakul, who got an All India rank of 10 in the recently concluded NLSAT 2025. Tanvi was our student in the Crack NLSAT 2025 course, our full course, our flagship course. So Tanvi, over to you. Without much delay, would our audience would love to know more about you. What is your educational background? Where do you come from? When did you start your NLSAT preparation? So if you could shed light on these three parts.
Yes. Hi everyone, my name's Tanvi. I'm from Karnataka and I did my undergraduate degree in Kriya University. I majored in environmental studies and I also have a postgraduate diploma in the same field. I decided to pivot into law school in my fourth year of university. And of course, everybody wants to try for NLS. So I decided to sign up for NLTI's course, I think somewhere in August last year, but I wasn't able to actually start preparing sometime in December is when I started my full-fledged preparation. So yeah.
Right. Tanvi, what made you pivot towards law?
Right. So this is actually a bit of a complicated question because I think that when you're doing your undergraduate degree, you're kind of
Hmm.
thinking of multiple different areas to go into, and the environmental studies are very vast. You can work in
Fair.
NGOs, you can work in the sciences or the social sciences. So during my fourth year program, I actually took a couple of courses where we did speak about law and environmental law in particular. And I actually did want to do law after 12th grade, but I just didn't end up doing it. So that it felt like a good place for me to go back to what I initially wanted to do and step
Hmm.
into law, but in a field that I was interested in. So I think that after this degree, I'm definitely going to pursue environmental law. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
Right. I think NLS will provide you a lot of opportunities to pursue environmental law. We have a very flagship research center also in NLS called
Mhm.
SERA, and it is run by Professor Sairam, and he's also one of the reputed figures in this field of environmental law. So
Mhm.
definitely, if you want to pursue this field, you will have a good time here at NLS. So then I'd love to know about more about your preparation. You said that you started preparing seriously only after December. So do you feel if a person has only like 4 to 5 months to prepare properly for this exam, is that enough, or do they definitely need more than that time?
I did feel that for the GK component, maybe I should have started a little bit earlier because I don't come from a background where I do read the newspaper every day in my regular life. So I felt like it was a habit to pick up, and I started picking it up pretty late.
Hmm.
So it was not something that did me a lot of favors, and I did keep up with some of the news post August. But I do know that it's recommended that you go back at least a year before the exam, and start from there. But I was not able to do that. So I think that, but within the time that I had, I think I prioritized certain things, which made the time enough for me
Yeah.
to write the exam, and I didn't feel like I was lagging too much behind because I was not working or studying full time at this point of time. So it was possible for me to dedicate more time to covering any backlogs that I experienced.
Right. Tanvi, so we'll delve into your preparation strategy a bit more. Tell
Mhm.
me about your part A. So, how did you? Is English natural? Is English language intuitive to you? Understanding passages, reading passages, reading speed, eliminating close options. Does that come intuitively to you, or did you have to work towards improving your skills in that particular aspect, like reading speed and completing your part B in a reasonable amount of time, and then critical reasoning also?
So when I started off, I did not focus too much on part A. I did focus a lot more on part B because I felt like my writing was slower than my reading, and
Okay.
because I'm an avid reader. I read all the time. So, and I also, when I started preparing, I did this practice of reading 3 newspapers every day in a certain amount of time, and I tried to bring that down every week. Um, and I think that that really helped in my speed. So I wasn't too stressed about part A in terms of speed. In fact, I remember when I was taking my mocks, I was actually able to finish part A in under an hour. Um, but again, this I my score was pretty stagnant, so in the low 50s or mid 50s, and I would go back and I would try to analyze why my score was stuck there. But then for a certain amount of time, I wasn't able to move past that score. So then what I did was I actually went back. I think this was in the last month, and I shifted my focus from part B to part A. And I went back and I looked at I bought one of those GMAT books and I looked at the theory for part A, and I tried to make sure that, because these books give you these really easy tips of how to just eliminate certain options, what are the certain red flags that appear in different question types, and that really helped. And I think it boosted my part A score significantly once I was able to identify these red flags and answer options.
Yeah.
Yeah, so time wasn't a problem for me for part A. So I think the last month I really prioritized part A, which is why my
Okay.
which is why in the exam I ended up spending a lot more time on part A than part B,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
yeah, decent score.
Tanvi, tell me about your last 1 month. I remember having to constantly text you, why are you not sending in sheets? Is everything okay? Because definitely you were one of the most consistent students here at NLTI. So we were definitely worried in the back end that what is happening? Why is Tanvi not sending sheets? And because you were not sending sheets, that disrupted our rank list also a little bit, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not able to figure out who are actually going to be the rankers here at from NLTI in this exam. So what was actually happening in the last 1 month? Were you completely focused on part A or were you focusing on part B? If yes, then how was it?
So in the last 1 month, like I said, I did pivot my focus a little bit more towards part A, because I think it hit me only then that this was a qualifier round and I had to score really, really good in this round if I wanted to
Hmm.
make it. And because more or less part B is going to be like a median score for most people. And
Fair.
I shifted my focus there, and what I started doing in the last month was I went over the last year question papers 3 times, and I really sat down and analyzed what kind of questions would show up, and all the mocks that I had done previously. While I did do them once again at the time, I went back to look at them in the last month. So in the last month, I didn't do many mocks at all, and I just
Hmm.
went back to analyzing my progress so far, where I went wrong, how I can stop myself from going wrong in those things again. So it was more
Right.
qualitative as compared to quantitative. And I think I spent a lot of time on that, especially with the past year question papers in the last month.
Yeah. Do you think that paid off? Because as I can see, your score in part A is around 61, 61.25. So I think it definitely paid off that you diverted your attention, because part B, time management in NLSAT particularly becomes a lot of problem. So even though you didn't score that much as you would have wanted in part B, your part A score was definitely higher than most students. And that is why you were able to you eventually clear the cutoff also. So I do think that your focus or
Yeah.
your strategy paid off. Yeah.
Yes, I think for me it definitely paid off, but I think the difference was the fact that I did many mocks earlier on. So
Yeah.
apart from NLTI, I also took mocks from two other institutes, and
Mhm.
every week I was doing two mocks and then analyzing both of those mocks the same week. So because I
Okay.
had done so many earlier on, it really I did not feel the need to do more in the last month, and focus more on just fixing and tweaking little things here and there. And I think that really
Yeah.
paid off, because I was revising my GK, I was revising my essay topics, and that really helped in the exam, because everything that I had read so far was I was able to refresh
Hmm.
it in the last month.
Yeah. Tanvi, so tell me about your strategy for GK. What was your strategy like? How did you prepare? What all sources did you refer to? And
Mhm.
did the NLSAT paper uh, come as expected as in this specifically in the GK section? Was it as per your expectation?
I think GK this time was pretty easy. I don't think it was anything that was too difficult or convoluted to figure out in the exam. So my strategy was I did not try to cover too much of a backlog, because at some
Okay.
point of time it felt like a trading situation was happening where I was giving so much time to GK that I wasn't able to focus on other things that were important. So my strategy was that from December onwards I was reading 3 newspapers a day, um, and from there I was annotating on these newspapers. I was keeping cutouts of things that were important that I could look back on later. especially for
Yeah.
editorials, for essay portions, and also world news segments and things like that. So I was keeping cutouts of those. And during the last month, I sat and I went through everything that I'd collected in the past 4 months.
Hmm.
And I was, well, after analyzing the past year question paper, I noticed that they were asking a lot of people in news, women in news, things like that. So I went to YouTube and I did a women in news search and I watched one of those UPSC videos. And those are really
Yeah.
easy to watch. They're like 1 hour long. They give you news for the entire year. And
Right.
it's like analyzing those previous year questions really helped because you can just go Google those same stats, but for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was doing all of this in the last month, and I went. So I lack some. I don't. I'm not very strong in static GK, so I went and I did some static GK in the last month. So like I said, it was mostly just covering up, filling in gaps that I knew, but I didn't stress
Yeah.
too much about the backlog because um, at the end of the day, you can only cover a certain portion, and you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And you can't try to cover everything because that'll just stress you out and you will not end up doing it and you'll end up compromising on other parts of the exam, which is also not desirable. um, so that was basically my strategy, just the newspaper, some
Yeah.
YouTube here and there. Yeah.
Right. Then it is definitely clear that you put in a lot of effort. So how was NLSAT for you? What went right? What went wrong? And were you expecting this rank after you came out of your center?
I definitely did not expect this rank once I walked out. I remember running out of the building, and I remember thinking, I just want to go home. I'm done with this, and I'm not going to think about this again. So it
Hmm.
was not great, and I think it was mostly just the stress of the exam and the fact that so many people are there walking out looking so happy, and I
Yeah.
did not feel the same. So my exam was really nice. I give less than an hour to part A and more time to part B. Like I said, my writing was much slower than my reading. But in the exam, I think that really changed. I ended up giving a lot more time to part A because I really wanted to nail that, like, the accuracy of my score and the accuracy of my answers. So I ended up giving around 1 hour, 15 minutes to part A. And that's including all of the time taken to fill in the
Hmm.
OMR and all of that. So I remember really enjoying doing part A because the passages this time were really nice also,
Yeah.
and some of them were really witty, and like I remember thinking this is such a nice exam to be writing, because it's fun and it's interesting to write. And I ended up
Yeah.
taking a lot more time for part A, and I was actually quite on track to write part B. And I think the first three questions or so for the 12 markers, I was on track to finish. And then I
Hmm.
slowed down when I realized I'm on track. And then
Okay.
I ended up missing out on one
Yeah.
of the questions. So I wasn't able to attend one entire question. Like I wasn't able to write a single sentence, but I was
Hmm.
able to write the whole essay. And
Yeah.
that's a trade-off that I decided that I was going to do in the exam. And I figured might as well write an entire essay rather than write a half-baked answer in a half-baked essay.
Hmm.
So I wasn't able to manage my time as well, and I think it was mostly just due to just like the atmosphere in the exam hall for me. I think that just stressed me out a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think that's what contributed to it
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah.
So, Tanvi, you completed part A in 75 minutes, so still had 75 minutes for part B. So,
Yes.
12 minutes per part B legal question, so that would be 60, and then 15 minutes for essay. So, I think you were quite right on time to start
Yeah.
your part B and finish it properly. So,
Yeah.
I think you fell in that traditional conventional trap that every NLSAT aspirant usually falls in while writing the paper. So, Tanvi, what are your tips and strategies that future NLSAT 26 aspirants should keep in mind to avoid falling in this trap and manage their time properly?
Right. So one thing I noticed was I started second questioning what I was writing. So I
Hmm.
started thinking, is my point coming across well enough? Is this argument strong enough? And then I would say, no, let me write one more sentence over here to make it
Hmm.
stronger. And I
Yeah.
think that was just a very silly thing to do because I think that you've already made your point. Move on. Um, and I think
Yeah.
I did that in the first two or three questions. And I started rambling a bit towards the end, saying, it was kind of saying, well, this is my point. Do you get it? This is my point. This is the point I'm making.
Hmm.
And I think that I think it's, when you're writing your mocks, it's not so much of an issue that you come across because you're like, okay, it's a mock and this is my point. And here it
Yeah.
is. But when you're writing the exam, I think it's a little bit different because you're scared that you're not really making as strong of a point. And I think what also kind of stressed me out was the fact that my answers in the exam were obviously not up to the same mark as my answers in the mock, just because
Yeah.
it's the real exam and you're stressed. And I think
Yeah.
that made me a lot more anxious when I was writing. So I think two things I would say is, if you're on track, just strive to stay on track. It's okay if you finish a little earlier, because I did not want to finish earlier. I wanted to use up all of my time, so I kind of slowed down,
Hmm.
and that was bad for me. So
Yeah.
stay on track with your time and don't second guess your answers. Your point is coming across fine. If you've been writing,
Yeah.
and your answers are obviously not going to be up to the mark, as we're writing in the mocks. So
Yeah.
be okay with it and expect
Got it.
it. Yeah.
That is definitely helpful, Tanvi. One more thing on part B. So, what is your advice on writing good part B answers? Did you focus more on writing more, or did you prioritize writing less but with a better quality? I definitely get it that NLSAT might be different, but what should be an ideal strategy, or what should your strategy look like for mocks?
For mocks, I would definitely. It's not about writing more or less. I think everybody has different writing styles. So write
Hmm.
how much ever you need to get your point across. So I think that for me, it wasn't about writing more or less. Each question has like these two or three things that I wanted to hit, and I think that's what really helped me in this part B, because I did leave out one question, and I was afraid that
Hmm.
was going to completely bring my score down. But because in each of the other questions I had written, there were these major things that I wanted to address, and all of them I was able to touch. That it worked out okay. So just make those major pointers that these are the points that cannot be missed. And if you're able to put that in more words or less words, whatever your writing speed is, uh,
Yeah.
however you write, I think that should be okay.
Right. Tanvi, so a question that is personal to me. How was your experience with NLTI? Did you find us helpful, and do you recommend us for future aspirants?
So my experience with NLTI was actually pretty positive. So like I said, I signed up last year in August, but I wasn't able to properly get to it until December. So the mocks were what made the difference for me. And like I said, I was taking two mocks a week, out of which one was NLTIs. And I think that taking mocks from many different institutes was helpful, because different mock styles, different types of questions. But I also think it was the amount of mocks that I was able to take that really made the difference for me. And the mocks at NLTI were very similar to the exam. And I remember after the exam, one of the passages was out of one of
Yeah.
the mocks that we did. So it was really helpful to see that what we had worked on for so long was actually really similar to what ended up coming out in the exam. And that was really helpful. Apart from the mocks, I think that um, the feedback that I was able to get from you and from other mentors at NLTI was helpful in my part B. They, in the initial days when I didn't really know what I was doing, I think that the online recorded sessions that were available for people to watch were really helpful, because they would pick up one question and they would discuss it with everybody who was in the session, and so you could actually figure out how to write this one question and you could apply that when you were practicing. So those
Yeah.
recorded sessions were also really helpful for me.
Right. Tanvi, what is one piece of advice that you will give to NLSI 26 aspirants, something that is indispensable for their preparation? Don't say newspaper reading. We have a lot of people who have already said that. Let's try to come up with something new.
Okay, I will say stay consistent. It's okay if you started late or at a time that's less suitable, and it's not. And I don't mean stay consistent as in do 6 hours every day. I just mean that when you look back on your timeline, you should be able to say that I consistently covered everything that I think was important. And I think, like, take stop and analyze everything that you're doing on a weekly basis or once in every 2 weeks. Stop and analyze your progress, what you'd like to change from there, because
Yeah.
that's something that helped me so much when I was stopping every week and I was saying, this week this is what I screwed up at, this week this was what I was good at, and here's how I'm going to change my strategy from there. And if you do this consistently, you're able to like really fine tune your preparation to what you need and what you're good at and what you're not good at, and that's really really helpful. So I think that's what I mean by consistency. So when you look back, long term, you'll see that it really does make a difference.
Right. Thank you so much, Tanvi. I'm sure this session will be definitely helpful for all future aspirants watching this video. Congratulations again on your brilliant rank. We're definitely looking forward to seeing you on campus. And thank you so much for enrolling with us and for agreeing to give this interview. Thank you so much, Tanvi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye.